We begin a new chapter, Silent Assassinations. Now, I want to remind you that this is a pre-released version you are listening to and reading. All criticisms are welcome, and that is the reason that this was released early. This section in particular still needs to be filled out, so bear with me. But the ideas are important and necessary to get a sense of the neurological weapons capabilities that the military has been willing to kill so many citizens for and been developing for 50 years or more, and is kept more secret than the Manhattan Project, the atomic bomb. Silent assassinations. Well, the first obvious use are car crashes, as I mentioned earlier. The psychic soldier or CIA brain-damaged warriors can place shadows of children in the road so that you will swerve to avoid hitting them. Luckily, I was aware of this technology while they were performing their tests. People that were most susceptible to the visual cortex stimulation could easily see holographic-like images of children or people to avoid. If they were unaware of this military capability, they would swerve if they were good people. I found this to be absolutely amusing and astounding that they can create shadow-like figures, especially ones that haunt, running outside your peripheral vision. Useful if you want to get someone to follow the imagery shadows, like lead a guard away from his post, for example. We're going to jump into a stupid alien prank. In the continuous onslaught of psychological abuse, the DoD CIA evil aliens tried to get me to fall for another degrading trick. Proudly I can say I had caught on to their abusive pranks quickly. They would tell me, in order to stop the pain and torture, all I had to do is ground my hands on the floor when I walked. It would project images of gorillas walking. The attempt at humiliation is self-evident. Humans and aliens. This planet isn't big enough for both of us. It's obvious who we can do without. Directed energy silent assassinations. All radar technology uses a mathematical technique to calculate EM waveforms effects called finite difference time domain in computational electrodynamics. This is important in calculating the properties of antenna design or near-field effects from waveforms. Using the same technique, it is possible to calculate a waveform time domain effect on different human bodies, heads, organs, and brains. By modeling a human body and head, one can calculate the resonance pattern in the human body, i.e., the standing wave formations and where the high and low energy absorption nodes would be. So a directed energy weapon could be made more effective by precision targeting of energy to specific organs, for example. If you wanted to give a target diabetes, you could destroy some of the pancreas or alter the sugar metabolism in the cells. If you wanted to increase the chance of lung or brain cancer, the weapon merely needs to add energy to those locations, and over time the probability will increase dramatically. Plausible denial and silent assassination techniques. I'll just go through a list here. Airplane crashes, creating programmed assassins, the old heart attack and stroke, depression and suicide, self-destructive behavior amplification, poverty and medical treatment, and then a bunch of dark cloud accidents, walking in front of a car, high voltage electricity, gas stove, leaving it on, drowning, maybe causing other people to misjudge that you rely on, doctors during an operation, or a taxi driver like Princess Diana. Falling downstairs and breaking a hip or neck, hypnotizing a walk in front of a car while driving, maybe running red lights, putting asleep at the wheel, force steering into cars, maybe emotional triggers to the point of road rage. For elderly, inability to take necessary medications properly. For a diabetic, messing up body sensing ability can kill a diabetic who takes insulin. Forced depression states, subliminals of suicide. They have a seizure signal. Other situation where poor judgment could be life-threatening. Airplane pilots would be potentially deadly for many other people. Disregard for the safety of other citizens or not targeted for this weapon testing. And children are being targeted and are far more easily influenced by the voices. They are told to play with their parents' guns or sharp objects, has been reported in several cases. Additionally, signals are amplified, so smoking and drinking habits would eventually lead to an early death. While I haven't heard of any events like this, directed energy weapons could be used to ignite gas stations. That is why cell phones aren't allowed to be used near gas pumps. Certainly they could be used to take out an airplane by sparking the fuel tank, like what happened with Flight 800, if you remember. And of course, JFK Jr. supposedly got confused where the horizon was in a practiced psychic assassination. Creating mind-controlled assassins like the Unabomber is an obvious, another plausibly denied event. Alright, remote-controlled lobotomies. So how does the U.S. dispose of citizens or ex-DoD employees? Dr. Delgado, nicknamed the Butcher, stated that people who think outside of some defined norm should be surgically mutilated. Think about how twisted that is. I assume he thinks he is normal. If remote-controlled induced heart attack attempts fail and car crash attempts fail, the last resort is menticization. That means killing the brain or brainwashing. Also called zombification, schizotronic generators are now the preferred method since there is no blood and is easily denied by the agencies and has been successfully kept in the science fiction realm of beliefs of the general populace and purposefully ignorant masses. Neuron amplification is easy if you have the neuron choice map of a particular mind. Amplifying every thought process like a thought echo would render a target dysfunctional, or disconnecting them from their mind amplification would turn them senile. Sounds like President Reagan. This amplification can lead to paranoia, an amplification of distrust and fear, or simply amplify erroneous thinking, manifesting itself as delusional thinking. Hypothermia. Much of the psychic research and EM weapons research talks about hypothermia out of the blue. It always had me baffled as to what the link was between hypothermia or hyperthermia and psychic research. They seem completely different. It was never made clear in either the Russian or U.S. literature. Then I found the connection in the least likely of places. It turns out that one of the first brain signals and directed energy effects way back in the 60s was that the most promising kill application of the weapon, which was to cause hypothermia in a person. It is not an actual cooling down of the person by taking energy out of the system, but a vasoconstriction from the nervous system, like when one gets scared. There may be interference with the cell's metabolism too. This explains spooky haunted houses. People have reported that they feel a chill when a ghost was present. The apparitions or ghost images were simply early testing of EEG heterodyning with projected mental images or visual perception errors into people's minds. The vasoconstriction increases their fear and makes them feel cold, so that they shiver. This is another reason why some people shake with extreme fear, such as observed in the famous cartoon series Scooby-Doo. I can see the crooks in the government now saying, "Dang nabbit, we would have gotten away with it had it not been for you meddling saints and your little dog too." Alright, a stupid alien trick. Quote, "If you don't kill your father in 1 hour, we will kill you by triggering an exploding microchip we implanted in your sinus cavity, ears, and tooth," my handler said. An hour came and went. I began to feel a popping sensation in my nasal cavity, then my ears, then my mouth. Quote, "The microchips are releasing a poison into your system right now." The sensations really felt like Pop Rocks candy in my nose, ear, and mouth. Later, the aliens told me that all 4 of them were sticking their fingers in their nose and flicking them out to create a sudden pressure change. They did the same with their ears, then the mouth. I suppose it would be scary for those people who read the disinformation on many websites about microchip implants or watched the movie Mission Impossible 2, where they had exploding microchips in the sinus cavity. That is not how the CIA tortures people. Only the belief of thinking they put in an exploding microchip works to control people in committing acts of murder through fear. I found cases where women killed their babies and such after talking to voices that told them to do it. Then they end up being imprisoned in an insane asylum and other. I know these US EEG heterodyning Satanist methods well. They truly are sociopaths and need to practice on US citizens before doing it to an important target like an Iraqi or such. The CIA used to call their torturers rough boys. Biotelemic antenna implants are no longer needed to pinpoint the directed energy at the target. And brain chip implants are ancient military technology and no longer used on most targets. People often believe when the synthetic telepathy program begins that it is coming from their fillings or a tooth implant due to the literature and misinformation, like from the movie Real Genius. Everyone has heard about braces picking up radio stations. Microwave hearing effect is even different than neuronal interfacing speech or ultrasonic heterodyning. We'll talk more about those technologies later. That ends that chapter. It is unfinished.